Welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky today urging the United Nations to ensure the security of Europe's largest nuclear power plant, which is currently under Russian control. In a meeting with visiting UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres in Lviv, he said particular attention was paid to the topic of Russia's nuclear blackmail at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This deliberate terror on the part of the aggressor can have global catastrophic consequences for the whole world. Therefore, the UN must ensure the security of this strategic object, its demilitarization and complete liberation from Russian troops. Mr. Zelensky is also meeting with his Turkish counterpart, Tayyip Erdogan, in Lviv for the first time since Russia's invasion on February 24. Zelensky, Erdogan, Guterres are expected to hold further talks on grain exports. Erdogan's office said he would address ways to increase exports of grain and steps that could be taken towards ending the war between Ukraine and Russia through diplomatic means. Issues of bilateral relations between Ankara and Kyiv will also be discussed. Turkey has criticized the Russian invasion and provided Ukraine with arms, including drones, while refusing to join the West in imposing sanctions on Russia, a stance it says has helped its mediation efforts reap results. And earlier, after his arrival to Ukraine, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres made a short visit to Lviv's National University ahead of his scheduled meeting with the Ukrainian president. Mr. Guterres was given a tour of the Faculty of International Relations by the university's dean, where he praised the university's contribution to the drafting of the UN Charter. Mr. Guterres' plans on Friday includes a visit to the Black Sea port of Odessa, where grain exports have resumed under a UN-brokered deal aimed at easing a worsening global food crisis. And Russia's foreign ministry has said that Moscow would only use its nuclear arsenal in emergency circumstances and that it has no interest in a direct confrontation with NATO and the United States. Speaking at a media briefing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Ivan Nachev said nuclear weapons would be used solely as a response measure. Russian military doctrine allows a nuclear response only in response to the threat of mass destruction or when the very existence of the state is threatened. He said that is the use of a nuclear arsenal is possible only as part of a response to an attack in self-defense and only in emergencies. Meanwhile, Ukrainian authorities in Zaporizhzhia joined efforts on Wednesday to hold nuclear disaster response drills after repeated shelling incidents at Europe's largest nuclear power plant. Journalists were invited to observe the drills, and the authorities said the drills will be repeated in the coming days. The Ukrainian Minister of Energy, Herman Halushenko, said that his government was very concerned about the safety of the Russian-occupied nuclear power plant in Enerhoda, located some 50 kilometers, 31 miles from Ukrainian-held Zaporizhzhia. He also urged the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to show impartiality and not close its eyes in front of the security situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. The plant was captured by Russia in March, and the bouts of shelling have been widely condemned, prompting calls for an urgent mission of the International Atomic Energy Agency to the facility in southern Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia have said they want IAEA inspectors to visit the facility, and the agency's chief, Rafael Grossi, has said he is ready to lead a mission.
Of course we are concerned, that's for sure, and that is the situation. We see that the situation from the when they start sharing from the 5th of August, it's changed dramatically. And of course we are concerned. That's why we are here. That's why we created this group. That's why we are involved in everyday communication with this. And we speak to our international partners also. That of course we are concerned. We want to see impartiality. We want to see that the EIA should say something about the war. They should say something about nuclear safety, because you cannot just close the eyes and say that if you see the military there, if you see the weapon, and of course it's directly influenced the safety of nuclear material at the station. And that's what we want to see. And of course we understand that from the other hand, they need to give some technical estimation on what is happening, because we just have not concrete information what is inside there.
Well, let's look at the situation, how it all started in Zaporizhzhia. Russian forces have occupied the site, Europe's biggest, since early March. Its management said that it now belongs to Russian state nuclear power company Rosatom. Ukrainian staff continue to operate the plant under Russian control. They have been urged to hand control back because of the dangers, and some staff there say they are being kept at gunpoint. In July, Russian forces reportedly deployed rocket launchers in the complex, turning it into a military base. We understand August 3rd, the International Atomic Energy Agency says the plant is completely out of control, needs inspection and repairs. The same month, Ukraine's nuclear agency, Rosatom, says the 2 rounds of Russian rocket fire prompted its operators to disconnect a reactor from the power grid. Ukraine says renewed Russian shelling has damaged 3 radiation sensors, injured a worker. Local Russian-backed authorities say Ukrainian forces hit the site with multiple rocket launchers. The 10th of August, foreign ministers from the G7 group of nations say Russia must immediately hand back control of the plant to Ukraine. The same August, the next day, more shelling of the plant is reported, with Ukraine and Russia again blaming each other. NATO is the latest international organization to call for UN inspectors to come into the Zaporizhzhia power plant, claiming its seizure posed a serious threat to Ukraine and neighboring countries. Officials say the plant could be cut off from power as Moscow tries to redirect electricity to Crimea, which it annexed 8 years ago. It's a place which has seen heavy shelling over the past couple of weeks. Up to 120 rockets are being reported in a single night. On Saturday, local reports say there was shelling of the nitrogen-oxygen station, which caused a fire. By some miracle, the people working there survived. Russia is accused of basing about 500 soldiers there. Recent footage has shown military vehicles being driven inside, and Svetlana is saying that it is no doubt being used as a base. Well, we'll come back to the story on Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. These are relatives of Ukrainian prisoners of war who rallied in Lviv earlier today as UN Secretary General was due to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Turkish President. Wives, mothers and sisters of Azov soldiers walked across the city holding posters, some reading "Don't touch our heroes" and chanting "Bring heroes back home." Donetsk Russian-backed separatists said a trial of captured Azov personnel would take place by the end of the summer, likely in the city of Mariupol. On August 2nd, Russia's Supreme Court ruled the regiment was a terrorist organization, clearing the way for captured fighters to be charged as such. The Azov Regiment, a unit of Ukraine's National Guard with far-right and ultra-nationalist origins, garnered international attention for its resistance to the Russian siege of Mariupol's vast steelworks. After fighting for weeks from the bunkers and tunnels below the steelworks, hundreds of Azov fighters surrendered in May to Russian-backed forces. On July 29, 53 Ukrainian prisoners of war were killed in the Donetsk region's Olenivka prison during shelling that both Ukraine and Russia have blamed on each other.
В полоні мій чоловік, батько моїх дітей. Ми самі з Маріуполя. Я хочу сказати, що мій чоловік не терорист. Він військовослужбовець. Він людина, яка захищав свою землю і захищає. Я хочу ще раз наголосити світові, що він
As part of a trip in the area much earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited wounded soldiers in a hospital in Lviv. Joined by medical personnel, Zelensky talked with the wounded soldiers and thanked them for their service. Zelensky was told that more than 9,000 servicemen have been treated at the medical facility. Mr. Zelensky is due to, of course, he's talked about the grain exports concerns, which he spoke about earlier. And this is talking about the meeting with the UN Secretary General and Turkish President, which will be wrapping up much later today. And talking about the grains now, 4 ships carrying Ukrainian grain anchored off Istanbul's coast today to be inspected by teams of the Joint Coordination Center before sailing to their destinations. Brave Commander, the ship carrying the first cargo of food aid bound for Africa, and 3 others, Osprey, Bonita and Ramos, will continue their journeys after being inspected. Russian, Turkish, Ukrainian and United Nations personnel work at the JCC. Ukraine used to export by sea 5 million to 6 million tons of agricultural products monthly before the Russian invasion. The government in Kyiv has said it hoped to increase the monthly income of sea exports to 3 million tons in the near future in order to clear a backlog of 18 million tons of grains left over from last year's harvest and start selling new crops. Elsewhere, Russian anti-war activists in Cyprus have vowed to continue holding protests against the invasion of Ukraine, despite what they say becoming the target of a threat after pictures of their names, faces framed with black ribbons were pinned to a billboard. The pictures of 9 activists appeared late July on the seafront promenade in Limassol, a city popular with both Russians and Ukrainians, and where anti-war demonstrators regularly gather. All 9 had participated in protests that regularly take place in the city, which draw crowds ranging from dozens to hundreds. The photos, each with a black ribbon, had been set into a collage attached to a fence used for billboard announcements, together with 3 red candles set on a ledge beneath the collage. He said they regularly participated in protests against President Vladimir Putin since the suspected poisoning by Russian authorities of prominent Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny in 2020. Of course, Russia denies trying to kill Navalny, who is serving jail time for parole violations, fraud and contempt of court. He says all charges against him were fabricated.
It's like a memorial for the people. In Russia, it's very common to make threats like this. And there are many activists in Russia who receive these threats, and sometimes they have some consequences. So there is a little chance that it can be really dangerous. We are Russians, but we think Russia is not right. It's aggressor. It's war should be stopped. Putin should be stopped. We will continue demonstrations, of course, until war not stopped. We will continue. We should continue. We will continue. So these threats can stop us.
It was a very strange situation because the people who did it, it's not a good intentions, because they make a hint for death in Russian styles.
I feel very sorry what my country is doing to my other family, Ukrainian people. Вот, я отработала.